The horizon swallowed the last sliver of daylight, leaving my world draped in a silence so thick it felt like a living thing, pressing against my skin. I live on the frayed edge of a nowhere town in northern Utah, where the highway hums softly, cradling a handful of tired motels, gas stations, and a lone grocery store. Beyond that, dirt roads snake into the dark, leading to scattered homes like mine, perched on the border of endless forest and whispering fields. My land, 40 acres of it, stretches out like a promise of solitude, but tonight that promise felt like a lie. It was just past 6 when I shut my laptop, the glow of another remote workday fading into the dusk. My stomach growled, a quiet nudge to head into town for supplies. The drive was familiar, the dirt road crunching under my tires, the world outside my windshield a blur of shadow and fading light. The grocery store was a beacon in the emptiness, its fluorescent lights harsh against the soft evening. I parked at the far end of the lot, a habit born of wanting space, not suspicion. Inside, the aisles were near empty, the hum of refrigerators a dull companion as I tossed items into my cart. Milk, bread, a pack of batteries I didn't need but grabbed anyway. Then I felt it, a prickle at the base of my neck, like the air itself was watching. I turned, casual, expecting nothing. A man stood at the aisle's end, his silhouette sharp against the bright shelves. His eyes locked onto mine, unblinking, like he'd been waiting for me to notice. I forced a half smile, chalking it up to coincidence, and moved on. But the weight of his gaze clung to me, heavy, deliberate. Minutes later, in another aisle, there he was again, closer now, maybe 6 feet away. He wasn't browsing, wasn't reaching for anything, just standing, his head tilted slightly, eyes boring into me like twin drills. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face neutral, scanning the shelves as if I cared about canned soup. Look away, just keep moving, I told myself, but my body screamed to run. I muttered a "hi," testing the silence. Nothing. His lips didn't twitch. His eyes didn't waver. The air between us thickened, charged with something I couldn't name. I grabbed the last item and headed to the checkout, my steps too fast, too loud. The cashier's small talk felt like a lifeline, pulling me back to normalcy. I paid, glanced. Back empty aisles, no sign of him. Relief washed over me, but it was thin, fragile. Outside, the parking lot stretched dark and quiet. My car a lonely island under a flickering street lamp. I tossed the groceries into the trunk, slid into the driver's seat, and locked the doors before I let myself breathe. As I pulled out, my eyes swept the lot. 30, maybe 40 cars, their shapes dim in the twilight. And then I saw him. Between 2 parked trucks, he stood, motionless, staring straight at me. No bags, no keys, just that unrelenting gaze. My throat tightened. Who is this guy? A trucker, maybe, wired on too little sleep? I didn't wait to find out. I hit the gas, the highway swallowing me as the sun sank completely, leaving the world in darkness. The dirt road to my house was a tunnel of black, my headlights carving out fleeting glimpses of trees and dust. I parked out front, the familiar outline of my home a small comfort. I hauled the first bags inside, the rustle of plastic loud in the stillness. My phone rang, Dad checking in. His voice grounded me, pulling my mind from the man in the lot. I laughed at his bad jokes, put away the groceries, and almost forgot the unease gnawing at my edges. Almost. When I stepped outside for the last bags, the night felt different, thicker, heavier, like it was holding its breath. I squinted into the dark, my eyes straining against the void. There, far down the dirt road, a shape. A truck, its outline faint against the starless sky, parked on my land. No lights, no movement, just a hulking shadow where none should be. My heart stuttered. It wasn't there when I drove in. I stood frozen, groceries forgotten, my mind racing. A lost driver? Someone turning around? But why park? Why hide in the dark? I grabbed the bags, my eyes never leaving the truck, and retreated inside, locking the door behind me. The house felt too small, the walls too thin. I opened the front curtains, needing to see, needing to know. The truck hadn't moved. I told myself it was nothing. A tired traveler saving on a motel, parked on my land by mistake. Just let it be, I thought, sinking into the couch, the TV's glow a weak shield against the night. An hour passed, then another. The truck stayed, silent, unmoving. My nerves dulled, lulled by the flicker of the screen, the hum of familiar voices. I was safe here, wasn't I? Bedtime came and I climbed the stairs, the house creaking under my steps. Sleep pulled me under fast, a heavy, dreamless void. But something ripped me awake. My bladder, urgent, insistent. The clock was a blur, maybe 2 a.m., maybe 3. I shuffled across the bedroom, the floor cold against my bare feet, and opened the door to the hallway. The air shifted, sharp, wrong. A sound, a faint, deliberate creak from downstairs. My body froze, every nerve screaming. I'd lived here for years, knew every groan of this house, every sigh of its old bones. This was different. This was alive. Held my breath, easing the door open again, testing. Silence. I crept to the stairwell, the darkness below swallowing the faint moonlight from the kitchen. And then I saw it. A shadow, moving, slow, deliberate along the hallway wall. My heart slammed against my ribs. Was it outside, a trick of light, or was it inside, inches from my life? I backed into my room, my hands trembling as I eased the door shut, the click of the latch deafening in my ears. My phone was a lifeline, my voice a whisper as I dialed 911, the operator's calm questions anchoring me to reality. Wait, listen, stay still. 5 minutes dragged by, each second a lifetime. Then another creak, slow, measured like footsteps testing the floor below. My mind painted horrors. The man from the store, his eyes burning through the dark, his hands reaching for me. The footsteps moved, faint but unmistakable, toward the living room. I clutched the phone, my whisper hoarse, begging the police to hurry. Headlights flashed outside, a siren's wail cutting the night. The house erupted, frantic footsteps below, a door slamming, the sound of someone fleeing. I stayed frozen until the police called out, their voices sharp, commanding. They found him, sprinting toward the truck in the field. It was him, the man from the store, his face twisted in the glare of flashlights, a gun in his hand. He claimed he only wanted to rob me, but the lie hung heavy. He'd taken nothing, carried no bag, knew I was home. He'd watched me, waited, planned. The police hauled him away, but the house didn't feel like mine anymore. The curtains stayed open that night, the darkness outside a mirror to the fear inside. What did he want? To take, to harm, to destroy? The question clawed at me, unanswered, as the memory of his eyes burned into my dreams. I'd survived, but the shadow of that night lingers, a reminder that safety is a fragile, fleeting thing. Last summer, I drove into the heart of nowhere, chasing a fleeting sense of freedom on a road trip that felt like a dream, until it turned into a nightmare. The endless ribbon of asphalt stretched before me, flanked by shadowy woods that seemed to whisper secrets in the dusk. I was on my way home after visiting relatives, each day a 4-hour blur of small towns and forgotten highways. This night, I'd booked a remote Airbnb cabin, a cozy stopover to break the 8-hour slog ahead. But something was wrong the moment I arrived, a chill that wasn't just the evening air, a feeling that I wasn't alone. The cabin sat at the end of a gravel driveway, framed by a perfect row of towering pines, their needles casting jagged shadows under my headlights. The landscape felt oddly staged, like a scene from a half-remembered dream where beauty hides something sinister. I parked, my tires crunching softly, and checked the email from the host for the padlock code. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and as I stepped out, the silence was deafening. No crickets, no wind, just an oppressive stillness that made my skin prickle. Why does it feel like the forest is watching me? Inside, the cabin was a stark contrast to its eerie exterior. Freshly renovated, it smelled of polished wood and new linens, small but inviting, with a single table and a bed tucked against the wall. I didn't unpack. I'd only be here for the night. I sat down with a lukewarm burger from a drive-thru, the paper bag crinkling in the quiet. This is fine, I told myself, trying to shake the unease clinging to me like damp clothes. But then, barely 10 minutes after I'd settled in, a sharp knock shattered the silence. My heart lurched. Who could be out here? I hadn't heard a car, no tires on gravel, no footsteps. Just that abrupt, insistent sound, like it had come from nowhere. Stood, my pulse quickening, and crossed to the door, my hand hesitating on the knob. It's probably the host, right? I opened it a crack, and there he was. A man in his 40s, his gray and black beard framing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His head was shaved, glinting faintly in the porch light, and his clothes were rumpled, stained with sweat. "Evening," he said, his voice smooth but heavy, like he was forcing the friendliness. "Just wanted to make sure you got in okay. Everything good?" I nodded, my throat tight, and mumbled that all was fine. Why is he here? I caught a whiff of something sour, like he'd been toiling in a field all day, the odor clinging to him, like a second skin. I said goodnight and closed the door, my fingers lingering on the lock as I turned it. Back at the table, I tried to eat, but the burger tasted like cardboard. He's probably nearby, that's all. Maybe he lives on the property. But the absence of any sound before his knock gnawed at me. No engine, no crunch of boots, nothing. It was as if he'd materialized from the shadows. I pushed the thought away and headed for the shower, letting the hot water scald away my nerves. The steam curled around me, and for a moment I felt safe, cocooned in the small bathroom. But as I dried off and slipped into bed, my phone's glow the only light. Another knock came, sharper, more demanding. No, not again. My body froze, the phone slipping from my hand. It's him. It has to. The knock came again, louder, vibrating through the wooden walls. I checked my phone. No texts, no calls from the host. Why would he come back? The silence between knocks was worse, heavy with intent. I slid out of bed, my bare feet cold against the floor, and crept to the main room. The knocks continued. Relentless, each one a hammer against my nerves. "What does he want?" I called out, my voice trembling. "What do you need?" The knocking stopped abruptly, and a low voice answered. "Can you open the door? Just need to ask something. Won't take long." His tone was calm, but it felt rehearsed, like a predator luring prey. I didn't answer, my mind racing. "Don't open the door. Don't." Seconds stretched into eternity, and then he knocked again, harder, his voice sharper now. "Open the door, please." My stomach twisted. "It's late," I said, forcing steadiness into my words. "If it's not an emergency, I'd like to be left alone." Silence followed, thick and suffocating like the air before a storm. Is he still there? I edged toward the door, my breath shallow, and peered through the small window. The porch was empty, the gravel untouched under. The dim light, where did he go? My relief was fleeting, replaced by a creeping dread. If he hadn't walked away, where was he? I stood rooted, Afraid to move, my eyes darting to the windows. What if he's still out there? The cabin felt smaller now, the walls closing in, every shadow a threat. Then, as I glanced at the living room window, I saw them. His eyes glinting, like a wolf's in the dark, staring straight into mine. My scream caught in my throat, and I stumbled back, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst. I sprinted to the bedroom, slamming the door, my hands shaking as I fumbled for my phone. He's not the host. He's not the host. The realization hit like a physical blow, cold and sharp. I dialed 911, my voice a whisper as I begged for help, my eyes locked on the door. As I waited, every sound was amplified. The creak of the floor, the wind against the walls, and then the faint scrape of a window being lifted. My blood ran cold. He's trying to get in. The sound was deliberate, metal grinding against wood, and I pictured his hands, those stained fingers prying at the frame. Why doesn't he have a key if he's the host? The operator's voice was a lifeline, urging me to stay calm, but my mind was a whirlwind of terror. What does he want? Minutes dragged on, each one an eternity, until sirens pierced the night. The scraping stopped, replaced by the crunch of gravel as he fled. When the police arrived, the cabin was empty, the window still ajar, a smear of dirt on the sill. They contacted the real host, who confirmed he'd never been to the property that night. That man was a stranger, a liar, weaving a trap I'd nearly walked into. The officers searched the woods, but he was gone, swallowed by the darkness. As I packed my bag, the cabin's warmth felt like a lie, its coziness a mask for the horror that had unfolded. What did he want? The question lingered, a shadow that followed me onto the highway, a reminder that safety is an illusion, and some doors should never be opened. I was 18, standing on the edge of adulthood, when my family, me, my mom, and my 7-year-old brother, set out for a spring break that would haunt me forever. We were headed to a cabin in northern Minnesota, a speck of solitude buried deep, in the wilderness far from the city's pulse. The plan was simple, a week to soak in the quiet, explore tiny towns, and maybe find a new place to call home. But something about that cabin, even before we arrived, felt like it was waiting for us. Mom had booked it online, drawn by the price, not realizing it was a 35-minute drive from the nearest store. The journey took over 10 hours, my hands gripping. The wheel for the first stretch, Mom taking over as the sun bled orange across the horizon. When we pulled up, the cabin stood like an old man, weathered and creaking, surrounded by a dense forest that seemed to whisper. This wasn't a vacation. It was a step into the unknown, and I felt it in my bones. The cabin greeted us with a musty scent, its wooden walls groaning under the weight of years. As the sunset faded, it felt like the forest was closing in, watching. We unpacked lightly, Mom fussing over the wood-burning fireplace, its flames casting jittery shadows across the room. My brother, small and curious, darted around before collapsing in his room. Exhausted, I napped through the evening, waking to a house gone still. Mom was asleep by 8:30, leaving me alone with the silence. The city never felt this heavy, this alive with absence. I curled up by the fireplace, its warmth a fragile shield against the chill seeping through the walls. My phone glowed, a lifeline to the world we'd left behind. But the quiet was intoxicating. No honking cars, no distant sirens, just the faint rustle of leaves outside. I didn't know then that the forest was listening, waiting for me to make a mistake. Craving air, I stepped onto the back porch, a rickety deck with a fire pit at its heart. The forest loomed, a black sea swallowing the stars. Something stirred in me, a pull to stay, to belong to this wild place. I sat, letting the cold bite my skin, feeling like I was part of something ancient, something that didn't want us here. The cold grew sharper, urging me to act. What's a night in the woods without a fire? I spotted logs stacked against the cabin, their rough bark promising warmth. Piling them in the pit, I coaxed a flame to life, its glow pushing back the dark. The fire danced, but the forest seemed to lean closer, jealous of its light. I sat, mesmerized, the crackling flames a rare treat for a city kid like me. For 30 minutes I was lost in the moment. The world reduced to heat and shadow. Then it came, a sound that tore through the night like a blade. A single sharp thud echoed from the forest, heavy and deliberate, like an axe biting into wood. My heart stuttered, the peace shattered. I strained to see beyond the fire's reach, but the darkness was absolute. Was someone out there, watching me? The sound didn't repeat, but its weight lingered, a warning I couldn't shake. My nerves hummed. The forest no longer a friend, but a maze of hidden eyes. I told myself it was nothing, but my body screamed to move. I smothered the fire, the embers hissing in protest, and retreated inside. The cabin's walls felt thin, no match for whatever lurked outside. I didn't know it yet, but that fire had called something to us, something hungry for more than warmth. Back inside, the cabin was too quiet, its silence a trap waiting to spring. I tried to shake the unease, but it clung like damp air. My brother and mom slept, their soft breaths a distant comfort. I sank into the couch, phone in hand, a downloaded movie flickering across the screen. But the forest's shadow pressed against the windows, daring me to forget that sound. 15 minutes in, a faint noise stopped me cold. A creak, not from the house settling, but from outside, near the wall beside me. My pulse quickened, the movie forgotten. I paused, listening, telling myself it was the wind. But the wind doesn't move with purpose. Another sound came, closer, deliberate, like something brushing the cabin's edge. I leaned toward the window, heart pounding, searching the void. Then a thunderous knock shook the front door, rattling the walls. I froze, breath caught, as Mom's footsteps rushed down the hall, her voice sharp with fear. "What was that?" I whispered. "Someone's at the door," but it felt like a lie. No one should be here. Mom grabbed her phone, dialing 911, her hands trembling. I crept to the door, dread pooling in my gut, and peered through the peephole. In the dark, a man stood, motionless, his silhouette carved from shadow. His hand gripped a heavy axe, its blade glinting faintly. My mind screamed, but my body was stone. He knocked again, harder, the sound a demand. No words, no reason, just the axe, promising violence. Mom's voice, low and urgent, relayed our nightmare to the operator. I wanted to believe he was lost. But the axe told a different story. The forest had sent him, and he wasn't leaving. Then he struck. A deafening crack split the door, the axe's blade piercing through, splintering wood. My scream died in my throat as we ran. Mom grabbed my brother, his small face pale with terror, and we bolted to the farthest room, slamming the door shut. The lock clicked, a frail promise of safety. Another strike shook the house, then another, each blow a countdown. I pressed against the door, praying it would hold. My brother clung to Mom, his whimpers slicing through me. How had our escape become a cage? The blows stopped after 5 hits, the silence worse than the noise. Was he inside, waiting? We crouched, hearts racing, the operator's voice a faint lifeline through Mom's phone. Minutes stretched into eternity, each second a gamble. Then, headlights cut through the dark, police faster than we dared hope. We stayed frozen, too scared to move, until an officer's voice called out. The door held, scarred but unbroken, its gashes a testament to our survival. The man was gone, swallowed by the forest. His axe had carved our fear into the wood, a warning we'd never forget. I knew then we'd never be safe here, not after what the night had shown us. The police searched the forest, but the man had vanished, his tracks lost in the dark. They said my campfire might have drawn him, a beacon, in the night. But that didn't explain the axe or why he came to kill. The cabin stood silent, its wounds a mirror of our own. We packed that night, the forest watching as we fled. Minnesota's promise of a new life died with those axe marks. We never spoke of moving there again. Years later, I still see that silhouette, the axe gleaming in his hand. The forest taught me something that night. Some places don't want you and some shadows hunt. No one caught him, and I wonder if he's still out there waiting for another fire to guide him. I don't light campfires anymore. The memory of that night burns enough, a scar that never fades etched deep in the quiet of my mind. The snow fell like a whisper, each flake a secret the night refused to share. January's grip tightened around my small, woodsy town, a place tucked 45 minutes from the city's pulse, where trees stood like silent sentinels and houses hid behind long, twisting driveways. My home, a modest box of warmth, sat deep in this seclusion, its windows glowing faintly against the endless dark. That night, I'd planned nothing grand, just a quiet evening after a half-day's work. The kind of day that promised rest but delivered something else entirely. Around 7, my phone buzzed, shattering the stillness. It was my friend, his voice tight with frustration. Car trouble again. He needed a ride home, maybe a quick stop for food. I didn't mind. We'd done this dance before. I grabbed my jacket from the closet, the fabric cold against my skin, and reached for my keys. Just another night, I thought, pulling open the front door. But the night had other plans. A man stood there, inches from me, his bulk filling the doorway. A heavy coat swallowed his frame, a black scarf masking his face, leaving only his eyes. Dark, unreadable, piercing. I stumbled back, my heart lurching, the air between us sharp with sudden fear. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stood, like a statue carved from the night itself. "Sorry," he said, his voice muffled, low. Was about to knock. My pulse hammered, but I forced calm, asking what he wanted. He paused, too long, then asked if I was David, or was it Daryl? The name didn't matter. It wasn't mine. I shook my head, words caught in my throat. "Okay," he said, turning away, his boots crunching down the driveway. I watched him go, my breath uneven, waiting until he vanished into the dark before locking the door and stepping out. Who was that? My mind churned, replaying his eyes, his stillness as I drove to pick up my friend. The encounter clung to me, a shadow I couldn't shake. I found my friend at his work, his grin a brief reprieve. We grabbed burgers at Culver's, the neon lights and greasy warmth almost enough to dull the unease. Almost. By 9, I'd dropped him off, the snow now a light veil across the roads. My driveway greeted me with its familiar curve. The house, a soft glow against the trees. I parked, the cold biting my face as I trudged to the door, key in hand. And then I saw them, footprints fresh in the thin snow, stretching from the road to my car, circling it, then veering off into the yard where the trees swallowed them. My stomach twisted. They hadn't been there when I left. I stood frozen, the night pressing in, my breath clouding the air. Someone was here. The man from before, a neighbor? My mind scrambled for excuses, but none fit. The prints were deliberate, purposeful, leading nowhere and everywhere. I unlocked the door, the warmth of the house a false comfort, and sank onto the couch. The TV's hum a weak shield. Hours slipped by, the screen blurring as my thoughts circled back to those prints, to the man's eyes, to the way he'd stood too close, too still. Midnight came, and with it, a sound. A faint rustle, like leaves underfoot, just outside. I paused, the TV ears straining. Nothing. I told myself it was the wind, the house settling, but my body knew better. I crept to the front door, peering through the peephole. The porch was empty, the snow untouched. But the driveway, those prints glowed faintly under the moonlight, mocking me. I turned away, heart thudding, and that's when it happened. A thud, heavy, deliberate, against the back of the house. I spun, my blood icing over. Another thud, louder, shaking the walls. Someone was out there, testing the door, wanting in. I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I dialed 911. The operator's voice was calm, distant, but mine shook as I whispered, "My address." My eyes locked on the back door. A shadow moved beyond the glass, vague, hulking, pressing against the night. Another thud, this one splintering, wood groaning under force. I backed away, my mind screaming to run, to hide. But where? The house was a trap, its walls too thin, its doors too weak. "Get out now," a voice inside urged. I snatched my keys, my jacket, and sprinted for the front door. The cold air hitting me like a slap as I stumbled to my car. The engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the snow. I glanced back. Nothing, no one. But the back door hung open. A black maw, in the house's side. I floored it, tires spinning, the road a blur as I fled. The operator stayed on the line, her voice a tether to safety, until police lights flashed in the distance. They found the house violated, watery footprints crisscrossing the floors, the back door battered, hinges warped. No one was there. No trace of the man. No proof he was the same one from the porch. I sat in my car, the police's questions a dull hum. My mind replaying the night. What if I'd stayed? The thought was a knife, twisting deep. The man had come twice, once to my door, once to my home. Had he watched me leave, waited for my return? The footprints, the thuds, the shadow, they were his, I was sure. But the police had nothing to hold him on. He was out there somewhere, his eyes still burning in my memory. Any night, any ordinary night, he could come again. The house, once a sanctuary, was now a stage for my fear, its silence a promise of horrors yet to come. In 2019, I thought babysitting was just a way to pay off my car loan, until one night turned my world into a waking nightmare, where every shadow held a threat. The house was quiet, too quiet, as I pulled into the driveway at dusk, the sky bruised, with purples and blues. I was a college sophomore, juggling classes and this side gig 3 or 4 nights a week. The family I worked for was kind, their voices soft, their smiles warm. Their 3-year-old boy was always asleep by the time I arrived, tucked away in his room, leaving me to guard the silence for 4 or 5 hours until they returned. But that night, something was watching me, waiting for the moment to strike. Stepped inside at 8 p.m., the familiar scent of lavender air freshener greeting me. The parents were already at the door, coats on, ready to leave. "He's asleep," the mother said, her eyes flicking to the stairs. "Thank you." They were gone before I could ask about their plans, their car's taillights fading into the suburban street. What do they do every week so late, I wondered, not for the first time. They'd mentioned the city once, maybe a date night, but the details were always vague. I set my bag down, the floorboards cool under my sneakers, and did my usual walkthrough, kitchen, living room, hallway, the boys' room. His small form was a lump under the blanket, his breathing steady. All good, I thought, settling into the living room chair. My phone's glow, my only company. The house felt like a cocoon, safe and still. But there was an edge to the quiet, like the air was holding its breath. I scrolled through videos, the soft hum of the fridge the only sound. Just another night, I told myself. But then my phone rang, sharp and jarring. It was the mother. "Did you just call me?" she asked, her voice tight. I frowned. "No, I've been here the whole time." She explained she'd gotten a call from an unknown number, silent on the other end. "Maybe it was a glitch," I offered, though a prickle of unease ran down spine. She thanked me and hung up, and I tried to shake it off. She's just worried. Parents are like that. I checked on the boy again, his room dim and peaceful, and returned to my chair, the unease lingering like a bad taste. Barely 20 minutes later, a flash of light cut through the living room, slicing between the blinds. Headlights. I paused my video, my heart picking up speed. The light didn't move, steady and unyielding like a spotlight trained on the house. A neighbor, maybe? I crept to the window, peeling back the blinds. A dark gray sedan sat at the curb, its rusty frame glinting under the streetlight. Windows, so dark they swallowed the night. I stared, my breath shallow, until I noticed him. A man standing near the driveway, his silhouette sharp against the glow. He was looking up, straight at the house, his posture rigid, like a predator sizing up its prey. Who is he? My pulse hammered, but I stayed still, afraid to draw his attention. After a moment he turned, slow and deliberate, and got back into the car. The sedan pulled away, crawling down the street, its headlights flickering through the trees before stopping, far enough that I could barely see. Then the lights went out. He's gone, I told myself, but my body didn't believe it. I stood by the window, my fingers gripping the blinds, waiting for him to return. 5 minutes passed, then 10, and nothing happened. Just a mistake. He got the wrong house. I sank back into the chair, but the house didn't feel safe anymore. The walls seemed thinner, the shadows deeper. I turned on the TV, keeping the volume low, hoping the murmur of voices would drown out my nerves. "Don't overthink it," I repeated, an embedded command to calm my racing thoughts. But as the hours dragged on, my eyelids grew heavy, the TV's glow blurring into a haze. I was half asleep, caught in that liminal space between dream and reality, when a soft sound snapped me awake. My heart jolted, a cold sweat breaking across my skin. What was that? The sound was faint, like something brushing against the house, but it cut through the TV's drone like a blade. I stood, my legs unsteady, and glanced toward the hallway. "Check the kid. Make sure he's safe." The command echoed, in my mind urging me forward. I moved slowly, each step deliberate, my eyes scanning the shadows. The house felt alive now, its quiet a deception, hiding something sinister. As I reached the hallway, another sound came, sharper, closer, like a hand testing a lock. My breath caught. Someone's outside. I froze, my gaze darting to the back door at the end of the hall. The glass panel glinted faintly, reflecting the dim light from the living room. Then I saw it, a flicker of movement, a shadow shifting just beyond the door. No, this isn't happening. My pulse roared in my ears, drowning out the TV. I edged closer, my body screaming to run but my mind demanding answers. That's when I saw him. His face pressed against the glass, eyes locked on mine, unblinking, like a hunter who'd found his mark. My stomach dropped, a scream clawing at my throat but dying in silence. He pulled at the handle, slow at first, then harder, the door rattling in its frame. "Run. Now." The command snapped me out of my stupor. I turned and sprinted up the stairs, my feet pounding against the wood, each step a desperate plea for safety. I burst into the boy's room, his small form still under the blanket. "Hey, buddy," I whispered, my voice shaking as I scooped him up. He stirred, confused, but I held him close, his warmth grounding me against the panic. Keep him safe. You have to. As I cradled him, a louder sound echoed from below. Metal straining, wood splintering. He's trying to break in. My mind flashed to a memory. A nested story from last summer. I'd been walking home late, feeling eyes on me, only to find no one there. But this wasn't my imagination. This was real. I crept to the top of the stairs, the boy clinging to me, his small hands gripping my shirt. The sounds grew louder, more violent, like the door was giving way. He's getting in. My phone was in my pocket, but I couldn't dial with one hand, not yet. I descended the stairs, each step a gamble, my eyes fixed on the hallway. The back door was visible now, its frame buckling under the force. Then, with a final wrench, it gave. He's inside. The man stepped through, his silhouette tall and menacing, his casual clothes deceptively ordinary. But in his hand, a knife gleamed, its blade catching the light like a promise of violence. Don't look back. Run. I bolted for the front door, the boy's weight slowing me, but adrenaline pushing me forward. The man's footsteps thundered behind, heavy and relentless, closing the distance. I fumbled with the lock, my fingers slick with sweat, and yanked the door open. Cold night air hit me as I stumbled outside, the boy whimpering against my shoulder. I sprinted to my car, parked just steps away, and threw open the door. Get in, lock it. I slid inside, slamming the door as the man reached the porch, his knife raised, his eyes wild with intent. I jammed the key into the ignition, the engine, roaring to life just as he lunged at the window, his face inches from mine. I floored the gas, the car lurching backward, tires screeching against the pavement. The man's hand grazed the glass, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through me. I shifted into drive and sped away, the house shrinking in my rearview mirror, its lights a fading beacon in the dark. You're safe. You're safe. But my hands trembled, the boy's soft cries filling the car. I pulled into a brightly lit gas station a mile away, my breath ragged as I dialed 911. Then the parents. Someone broke in. I choked out, my voice barely my own. He had a knife. The police arrived quickly, their flashing lights a stark contrast to the night stillness. The boy was safe, now in the arms of an officer, but I couldn't. Stop shaking. The parents rushed to the scene, their faces pale but oddly composed. Thank you, the mother said, her voice flat, her eyes avoiding mine. They took the boy and left, offering no explanation, no comfort. The police searched the house, finding the back door shattered, footprints in the mud, but no trace of the man. He's gone, but for how long? I gave my statement, describing his dark hair, his knife, the sedan that had haunted the street earlier. But the parents' silence gnawed at me. Why aren't they more afraid? Back home, I couldn't sleep. The man's eyes burned into my memory, an anchor for my fear. I scoured the internet, desperate for answers. A buried article mentioned the mother's first marriage, to a man with dark hair, a man who'd vanished after their divorce. Was it him? The resemblance was uncanny, but there was no proof. The parents never called me again, their silence louder than any explanation. They know something. Months later, I heard whispers of a custody dispute, a shadow from their past. But the truth remained out of reach, a ghost as elusive as the man himself. What did he want with the boy? The question haunts me, a reminder that some dangers hide in plain sight, waiting for the night to claim them. The headlights flickered, then died, leaving me stranded on a road that felt like it belonged to no one. I was alone, halfway from Wisconsin to Montana, my car packed with dreams of a new start. But at 7 p.m., as the sky bled purple, something shifted. A shadow moved in the rearview mirror, gone when I blinked. My pulse spiked, but I told myself it was fatigue, the endless miles playing tricks. This road didn't forgive mistakes. and I was about to make one. I gripped the wheel, snacks and a playlist my only companions, and drove into the night. The city's glow faded, small towns vanished, and the world became fields, forests, and silence. Gas stations were ghosts, their signs flickering every 15 miles, daring me to stop. I didn't know it yet, but the night was already hunting me. 2 hours in, my tank was still strong, but the road grew emptier, the darkness thicker. I needed gas, needed to feel human again. The dashboard's glow was my anchor, but the silence pressed in, heavy with secrets. Every mile felt like a step deeper into a trap. 20 minutes later, a faint light broke the void. A gas station, solitary and dim. I pulled in, my tires crunching gravel, unaware that the shadow I'd glimpsed wasn't in my mind. The night had chosen me, and it was only beginning. The gas station was a relic. 4 pumps standing like sentinels under flickering lights. No one was here, not a soul, just me in the dark. The convenience store's windows were black, shutters down, lifeless. I parked, stepped out, and started pumping gas. The nozzle was slow, agonizing, each drop a test of patience. I leaned against my car, the cold metal biting my skin, staring at the empty road. The night felt too still, like it was watching me. Then headlights pierced the dark, a car crawling down the highway, far slower than it should. It passed, then stopped, reversing toward the station. My stomach tightened. Why would anyone back up on a road like this? It pulled in, parking right behind me, too close. I kept my eyes on my pump, ignoring the sound of a door opening. But the silence that followed was worse. No movement, no pumping gas. I glanced over, and there he was. A tall man in a gray flannel and black jeans, his eyes locked on me, unblinking, heavy with something I couldn't read. My smile was forced, a nod I didn't mean. He didn't react, just stared, his gaze a weight on my chest. Seconds dragged, then he moved, grabbing the pump. I exhaled, telling myself I was paranoid. But when I finished and locked my gas cap, his eyes were on me again, dull and predatory. I slid into my car, heart racing, and pulled away. The station shrank in my rear view, but his stare lingered, burned into me. I told myself he was just a tired traveler, but the night knew better, and it wasn't done with me yet. The road stretched on, a black ribbon under a sky heavy with rain. 3 hours passed and the man's eyes still haunted me. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder, blurring. The world beyond my windshield. Each drop felt like a warning, urging me to stay alert. I'd been driving 5 hours now, past midnight, my eyes burning from the strain. An energy drink fizzed in my hand, but it couldn't fight the weight of exhaustion. By 1 a.m. I was done. My gas was low, my body screaming for rest. Another gas station appeared, as run down as the last, its lights a faint glow in the storm. I filled up, the rain soaking my clothes, then parked beside the building. No towns nearby, no help, just alone in the middle of nowhere. I checked the weather, the rain wouldn't stop. Deciding on a 30-minute nap, I leaned back, the seat creaking under me. Sleep came fast, a heavy pull into darkness. The rain drummed on the roof, a lullaby I shouldn't have trusted. I didn't know it, but the night was closing in, and something was already too close. I woke to the rain's steady rhythm, my alarm still silent. 25 minutes had passed, but something felt wrong. The station was quiet, too quiet until I saw it. A car at the pump, its shape unmistakable. It was his. My blood ran cold, my breath shallow. Where was he? No one was in the car, no one outside. Panic clawed at me, a scream I couldn't voice. I started the engine, hands shaking, and shifted to reverse. Then I looked in the mirror. His eyes burned from the back seat, a shadow come to life. I lunged forward, kicking the door. Open, tumbling onto wet pavement. My car rolled back, driverless, as I ran, legs burning, into the woods. He didn't follow, but my car stopped, then sped away, his silhouette at the wheel. Stranded, soaked, I realized my phone was gone, left on the dashboard. The night had claimed me, and he was its hunter. His car sat abandoned, keys in the ignition, groceries scattered. I found a phone, locked but usable, and called 911. The truth hit later. This car was stolen, its owner another victim, less lucky than me. He'd planned to strike on the road, his intentions a mystery. My car, my phone, gone. The police never found him, and the night keeps his secrets. I still see those eyes waiting in the dark. The forest called to me, its voice a siren song woven from whispers of pine and secrets of shadow. In the summer of 2015, I craved escape, a break from the hum of routine. My plan was simple yet daring, a solo hike to an abandoned fire lookout, a relic hidden deep in a forest hours from my home. It was illegal to enter, they said, unstable, forgotten. But the thrill of standing where few dared pulled me like gravity. I packed my gear, my heart thrumming with anticipation, and set out unaware that the woods held more than solitude. The drive was a blur of asphalt and fading daylight, ending at a lonely roadside ditch where I parked my car. My backpack, heavy, with 2 days' supplies, settled on my shoulders as I checked my handheld GPS. Its screen a faint glow in the dusk. Step into the unknown, it seemed to say, and I did. The forest swallowed me whole, its terrain a maze of tangled roots and towering trees, no path to guide me. Each step sank into moss, each breath tasted of earth and resin. Hours passed, 4, maybe 5, my legs burning, my mind drifting to stories of the lookout, a sentinel of the wild, now crumbling, its last visitors years gone. What if it's not there? The thought gnawed, but I pressed on, the GPS my only tether to purpose. At last the trees parted, revealing the lookout's silhouette against the sky, its weathered frame rising like a ghost from the canopy. It was smaller than I'd imagined, paint peeled to bone, but sturdy, its support beams unyielding under my cautious push. It's safe, I told myself, climbing the metal ladder, each rung groaning under my weight. At the top, the world unfurled, a sea of green stretching to the horizon, unbroken by roads or rooftops. My breath caught, awe silencing doubt. I stepped inside the single room, no bigger than a shed, its rotting desk and decaying bed relics of a forgotten era. The windows, cracked but whole, framed the forest like a painting, alive yet still. I set up camp, rolling out my sleeping bag, heating a meal on my small stove. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in fire, and I stood on the ledge, drinking in the view. This is why I came. The world below was mine, untouched, endless. But as night fell, the clouds rolled in, smothering the stars, plunging the forest into a darkness so thick it felt like a weight. I lingered on the ledge, the wind sharp against my skin, reluctant to retreat to the cramped room. And then I saw it, a light, faint, flickering, moving through the trees below. Not a flashlight's beam, but an orange glow, warm, alive like a torch. My heart skipped. Who's out there? The forest was too remote, too wild for others to wander at this hour. The light danced, weaving between trunks closer than I'd thought. I squinted, my pulse quickening. No voices, no footsteps, just that eerie glow, unnatural in its silence. It vanished behind a ridge and I waited, breath held for it to reappear. It didn't. 30 minutes passed, the night growing colder, my nerves fraying. Just another hiker, I told myself. but the lie felt hollow. I scanned the darkness one last time, ready to turn away, when a figure stood below, at the edge of the clearing, staring up at me. My blood froze. He was still, his face lost in shadow, his presence a violation of the solitude I'd claimed. "Hello?" I called, my voice thin, trembling. No answer, just that unwavering gaze pinning me in place. Seconds, stretched, endless, until he raised a hand, slow, deliberate, like an apology or a warning. Then he turned, melting into the trees, no light to guide him. What was that? My mind raced, conjuring stories of lost hikers, of men who roamed these woods with darker intent. I retreated inside, the lookout's walls suddenly frail, its windows, eyes into the void. Sleep was hard-won, the wind rattling the glass, the beams shifting like restless spirits. I drifted off, lulled by exhaustion, only to be ripped awake by a sound. A metallic groan, soft but unmistakable from the ladder outside. My eyes snapped open, heart pounding. The night was still, too still, but there it was again, another groan, then another, rhythmic, deliberate. Someone was climbing. I sat up, my sleeping bag pooling around me, my breath shallow. "Listen, don't move." The sounds grew louder, faster, the ladder's hinges screaming under weight. I grabbed my backpack, my hands shaking, and crept to the ledge, the darkness beyond the windows absolute. The groaning stopped, abrupt, as if the climber sensed me. I edged toward the ladder's opening, my flashlight trembling in my grip, and peered down. Nothing. The rungs gleamed faintly, empty. Am I imagining this? My relief was fleeting. Footsteps, rapid, heavy, circled the lookout's walkway, a shadow flashing past the windows. I spun, catching only a glimpse. A dark figure, swift, purposeful, hunting. Panic seized me. I slung my backpack on and lowered myself onto the ladder, the metal slick under my palms. Each rung was a gamble, my body shaking as I descended, the night swallowing my gasps. He's above me. I glanced up, saw a head peer over the edge, eyes glinting in the dark. I didn't think, didn't stop, just climbed faster, my feet slipping, my heart a drumbeat. The ground met me like a mercy, and I bolted into the woods, the flashlight's beam dancing wildly. The GPS was my lifeline, its cold logic guiding me through the tangle of trees. Keep moving, don't look back. Hours later, my car appeared, a beacon in the ditch. I drove away, the forest shrinking in my rear view, my hands still trembling. The lookout was behind me, but its shadow wasn't. Who was he? A hiker, a hunter, something else? The light, the figure, the footsteps, they haunted me. A puzzle with no answer. I'd escaped, but the forest kept its secrets, and the thought of what might have followed me down that ladder still wakes me in the night. Last summer I went to a hidden lake to escape the world, but something found me there. Something that wasn't human, or maybe it was. And that's what scares me most. The lake was a secret, nestled deep in the woods, unmarked on any map, known only to a few locals and my father, who'd brought me here as a child. It was my sanctuary, a place where time stood still, where I could breathe. I set up camp on a Friday, my tent pitched near the water's edge, the air thick with pine and damp moss. The first day was perfect, sunlight dancing on the lake, the quiet wrapping me like a blanket. I wandered the shore, my boots scuffing the earth, the water's surface a mirror for the sky. This is what I needed, I thought, unaware that the woods were already watching. By Saturday I was settled, circling the lake in lazy loops, my thoughts unspooling with each step. The forest was alive but gentle, birds flitting through the canopy, the air cool against my skin. I must have walked the same path 3 or 4 times, the rhythm soothing until I saw them. Footprints fresh and deep carved into the dirt near the tree line. My heart skipped. They weren't there before, I'd have noticed. The prints were barefoot, stark against the rocky soil, leading from the forest to the lake's edge and back. Who's out here? The lake was no place for bare feet. Its shores, jagged, its waters cold. I scanned the horizon, the water empty, the trees silent. Someone's here. The discovery shattered my peace. The forest's quiet now a threat. Stay calm. I traced the prints with my eyes, their path vanishing into the dark of the woods. Don't follow. My pulse quickened, my mind racing with questions. Why barefoot? Why now? I backed away, my boots heavy, and returned to my camp, the lake's beauty now a mask. Don't look back, but I did, my gaze darting to the tree line, expecting a figure to emerge. Nothing. The sun sank, the sky bleeding red, and my unease grew, a knot in my chest. They're still out there. Night came, and I built a fire, its flames a frail barrier against the dark. The smoke curled upward, shadows twisting, on the ground like restless spirits. I sat close, my hands clasped, the warmth doing little to ease my chill. You're alone, I told myself. But the footprints lingered in my mind, their strangeness gnawing at me. Why didn't I see them sooner? My thoughts drifted to a nested story. My father's tale of a camper who vanished here, his tent empty, his boots left behind. Just a ghost story. I'd laughed as a kid, but now it felt real. The forest was silent, no crickets, no breeze, just the fire and my ragged breaths. Then steps, soft and deliberate, from the trees. My body froze. Every sense sharpened. Listen, the steps doubled, 2 sets slow and steady, closing in. I turned, my eyes piercing the dark, the fire's light fading at the tree line. They're coming. 2 figures appeared, a man and a woman halting just beyond the glow. Their forms were vague, faces cloaked in shadow, but their presence was suffocating, like a weight on my lungs. Can I help you? I called, my voice thin. The woman fled, her shape vanishing into the woods. The man stayed, his gaze boring into me. His feet are bare, my stomach lurched, the footprints now alive in my mind. It's them, I asked again, my words trembling, but he didn't respond. He turned, slow as a dream, and slipped into the dark. This isn't real. My heart raced, the fire's warmth gone cold. Leave. Now. I tore down my camp, my hands fumbling. The forest's silence a predator waiting to strike. I scattered the fire's logs, its light dying as I plunged into the woods. The 2-hour path. To my truck a gauntlet. Keep moving. The darkness was thick, my flashlight's beam a weak defense. For 10 minutes I was on edge, every snap a threat. Are they there? 40 minutes in, running steps, light and fast, 100 feet away. My breath hitched. It's them. The steps stopped, then returned, now on my left, softer like bare feet on dirt. They're stalking me. My flashlight swept the trees, finding nothing but shadows. The steps came in bursts, circling, taunting. Run faster. My legs ached, my pack, dragging, but fear propelled me. The forest was a maze, its silence a trap. You're almost there. Another burst of steps, closer now, then gone. I didn't stop, didn't look, until my truck's outline emerged, its metal a lifeline. I climbed in, locked the doors, and sped away, the lake fading in my mirror. You're safe. But the question remained, an anchor for my terror. Who were they? I never learned their purpose, their nature, or if they were human. Maybe they weren't. The thought haunts me, a shadow I can't escape. I haven't returned to the lake, and I never will. The rain stopped, and the silence screamed louder than the storm ever could. I was 24, a wanderer living in a camper van, chasing solitude along the West Coast's forgotten roads. 2 years ago, in Washington's endless forests, I parked in the clearing, and something found me. I'd always shunned cities, their noise and crowds suffocating. Small towns were fine for supplies, but the backcountry, where trees whispered secrets and no one else breathed, was my haven. I thought I was safe alone, but the woods had other plans. That week, I was drifting between two cities, taking back roads, lingering at campsites for days. The forest called and I answered, blind to its hunger. I turned onto a dirt trail, narrow and overgrown, its pull-off spots empty, untouched for weeks. The deeper I went, the heavier the air felt, like the trees were watching. At the trail's end, a wide clearing opened, circled by towering pines. It wasn't beautiful, just raw, isolated, with a stone fire pit at its heart. I leveled my van, its tires sinking into mud and settled in. Spring in Washington meant rain, endless and gray, trapping me inside. The forest was my refuge, but today, it felt like a cage. I propped open the side door, letting damp air mix with the scent of propane as I cooked. Sunset bled through the trees, painting the clearing in fading gold. I had hours before sleep, hours to lose myself in the quiet. But the quiet was a lie, and the night was already closing in, its eyes hidden in the dark. As the sun sank, the rain returned, heavier, drumming on the van's roof. I closed the side door, sealing myself in, but the forest's gaze pierced through. I cracked a rear window, letting in the scent of wet pine, and settled on my bed with my laptop. A show flickered, its light a fragile shield against the dark. Halfway through, a flash cut across the screen, a glare sharp and alien. My breath caught. It wasn't lightning. The light vanished, not fading, but snuffed out like someone killed it. I spun to the window, heart racing, but saw only blackness, rain streaking the glass. Was someone out there, their flashlight betraying them? I told myself it was another camper, their headlights catching the trees. But the light came from the forest, not the trail. No other paths led here. My mind raced, conjuring shapes in the dark. I returned to my show, but my eyes darted to the windows, senses straining. The rain masked everything, every rustle, every step. I saw nothing, heard nothing, but the feeling grew, heavy and cold. The forest wasn't empty, and it wanted me to know it. I dimmed the screen, listening, waiting for the night to speak again. By 10 p.m., I gave up on the show. The forest's weight was too much, its silence a threat. I turned off the lights, closed the windows, and drew the shades, plunging the van into darkness. Under the covers, I tried to sleep, but my mind replayed that glare. The rain grew fiercer, thunder rumbling like a beast prowling the trees. Sleep wouldn't come. The storm was too loud, the night too alive. 2 hours later, past midnight, a sound sliced through the chaos. A branch snapping, close, deliberate. My eyes snapped open, heart pounding. It wasn't the storm, something moved outside, fast, reckless. I peered through the shade, but the darkness was absolute, rain blurring the world. I felt eyes on me, unseen, unyielding. I lowered the shade, breath shallow, telling myself it was an animal. But then a voice, a man's, low and urgent, speaking to someone else. My body froze, every nerve screaming. They knew I was here. For minutes, only rain and thunder answered. I sat rigid, waiting, praying they'd leave. The van felt like a trap, its walls too thin. I wanted to run, but where? The forest was theirs. The silence stretched, suffocating, until a new sound, a faint pressure against the side door, like someone testing its strength. My pulse roared, drowning out the storm. They were here and they weren't leaving. I clutched the blanket, every instinct urging me to stay still, to become invisible. But the night had found me, and it wasn't done playing its game. Then it came, a knock, sharp, demanding on the side door. I froze, breath trapped as another followed. They knew I was here and they wanted in. The knocks continued, relentless, every few seconds. No words, just insistence. My mind screamed, but I stayed silent, invisible. 5 minutes dragged, each. Knock a hammer on my nerves. Then a voice. "Sheriff's Department, open up." My blood ran cold. No sheriff waits 5 minutes to announce themselves. They kept knocking, repeating their lie, desperate, impatient. I lifted the shade, heart in my throat. A figure moved, shapeless in the rain. No badge, no uniform, just menace. This wasn't the law. This was a hunt. I debated, seconds ticking, like hours. Stay and they'd break in. Run and I might escape. The knocks grew frantic, the lie unraveling. I had to move. I slid to the driver's seat, hands trembling, and turned the key. Footsteps, 2 sets, rushed toward me, shadows in the storm. I floored it, the van lurching forward, tires gripping the mud. A face pressed against the window, eyes burning, but I was gone, the forest swallowing their chase. I sped down the trail. No other vehicles in sight. Their intentions were clear and they weren't sheriffs. I reported it, but the county found no officers out that night. They vanished, their secrets buried in the rain. I've never camped there again, but those eyes in the storm still haunt me. The night was a predator, its silence stalking me as I drove through the empty veins of my town. I lived in a middle-class suburb on the East Coast, a place obsessed with order, where the war on drugs painted every shadow with suspicion. Unmarked. Police cars prowled like wolves, sleek sedans, rugged SUVs, even fake taxis, their presence a constant hum of control. At 17, I was no stranger to their watchful eyes, but tonight, after a date that lingered past midnight, I felt the weight of something darker closing in. The road stretched black and desolate, my old Nissan rattling under the strain of a long night. I kept to the speed limit, my hands tight on the wheel, aware of the small stash of weed hidden beneath the spare tire in my trunk. Just get home, I told myself, the dashboard clock glowing 12:03 a.m., a reminder I was breaking curfew for minors. The date had been worth it. Her laugh, her touch, but now alone, the town's paranoia seeped into me. Headlights flared in my rear view, sharp and sudden, a car pulling close, too close. My pulse quickened. An unmarked cop. Its shape was unmistakable. A sleek, dark sedan, no badges, no lights, just a hulking presence tailing me through the empty streets. For 5 miles it followed, a silent hunter. My palms sweated, my mind racing. They know about the stash. They'll search the car. I glanced back, the sedan's grille a grim smile in the dark. At an abandoned gas station, its lights flashed red and blue, a siren's wail slicing the night. I pulled over, heart pounding, papers trembling in my hands. License, registration, insurance. Stay calm, don't give them a reason. The figure approached, his silhouette sharp against the street lamp's glow. He wore a police uniform, but something was off. His blonde hair too long, his pants comically short, exposing pale ankles. His face was young, almost boyish, his smile too wide, too eager. "Where are you headed?" he asked, leaning into my window, his breath hot, his eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. "Know why I pulled you over?" I shook my head, voice caught in my throat. "I do," he said, smirking, and took my papers, retreating to his car. I watched in the mirror, my gut twisting. No badge on the car, civilian plates, pants that don't fit. The pieces didn't add up. He returned, his smile sharper now. "Pull around back," he said, gesturing to the gas station's shadowed rear. "No, this isn't right." My instincts screamed, a primal warning I couldn't ignore. I nodded, starting the engine, but my hand found my phone, fingers dialing 911 as he walked away. "I'm being pulled over by a suspicious cop," I whispered, reading the sedan's plate to the operator. Her voice was a lifeline. "That's not a police car. Get out of there now. Run, don't look back." I pulled behind the building as instructed, but instead of stopping, I floored it, tires screeching as I swung back onto the road. His lights flared, the sedan roaring after me, a beast unleashed. My Nissan shook, its engine screaming as I pushed. 75 mph, faster than I'd ever dared. He's gaining. The road blurred, my heart a frantic drum, the operator's voice a distant hum urging me to find safety. I swerved through a red light, my car groaning, the sedan's lights relentless in my mirror. This is how it ends. My mind flashed to stories. Girls attacked, one dead, all lured by a fake cop in a neighboring state. The road grew familiar, my town's main strip, but still too quiet, too empty. I leaned on the horn, a desperate cry, weaving through sparse traffic, praying for a real cop to see me. There, the diner. Its lot was a known hideout for speed traps. I whipped in, tires skidding, my car shuddering to a stop. I scanned the dark, expecting his face at my window, his hands reaching for me. Nothing. The sedan was gone, its lights vanished as if it had never been. I sat, knuckles white, the engine's protests fading into silence. Am I safe? A car door slammed and I flinched, bracing for the worst. But it wasn't him. 3 marked police cars surrounded me, officers approaching, hands on holsters, faces grim. "You're lucky," one said, taking my statement. The fake cop had fled, likely spooked by the diner's reputation. They knew of him, a string of violent assaults, one fatal, all tied to a car like his. He was out there, hunting, and I was his prey. The cops praised my quick thinking, but their words couldn't erase the truth. I'd come inches from a nightmare. Back home, the night pressed against my windows, its silence no longer safe. What if he'd caught me? The question was a blade, carving through my sleep. His face, his smile, his too short pants, they haunted me, a specter of what might have been. The town's watchful eyes, once a nuisance, now felt like a fragile shield, and I drove its streets knowing he was still out there waiting for another night, another chance. My mother's story from the 80s isn't just a tale, it's a scar, a warning that even those sworn to protect can become predators in the dark. She told it to us, her voice low as if the memory still hunted her. Back then she was 16, a rebellious spark in a small town of 5,000 souls, where cornfields stretched endless and high school football was king. Her parents were divorced, her father a ghost in her life, leaving her to raise hell with her younger brother and mother. She smoked weed, drank, and snuck out to parties, chasing freedom in the humid summer nights. But one night, freedom turned into a trap, and the man she trusted wore a badge. It was past midnight when Miss Kelvin and her 3 friends, dizzy with cheap liquor, piled into a car, laughter spilling out the windows. "Don't drink and drive," she'd warn us, pausing her story, her eyes distant. They didn't get far before red and blue lights flashed behind them, slicing through the haze. The car slowed, and panic set in. One friend sobbed, another cursed, under her breath. Miss Kelvin, always the calm one, glanced back. 2 cops, one approaching, the other in the cruiser. The night was thick, the air heavy with the scent of corn and gasoline. Maybe we'll get lucky, she thought, her heart racing but her face steady. The cop leaned down, his face shadowed by the cruiser's glare. Then she saw him. Mr. Nelson, the church-going giant from our town, his beard flecked with gray, his voice familiar from Sunday sermons. "Having a good night, are we, Miss Kelvin?" he asked, his tone light but his eyes sharp, like a wolf sizing up prey. She forced a smile, her voice slurring just enough. "Sorry, Mr. Nelson. Guess we were distracting." The driver. She'd lied before, smooth and quick, but his smirk told her he wasn't buying it. "He knows we're drunk." He asked for their licenses and registration, then ordered them out of the car, his boots heavy on the gravel as he returned to the cruiser. The girl stood by the car, the night closing in, the cornfields rustling like whispers. "Stay calm," Miss Kelvin told herself, an embedded command to steady her nerves. Mr. Nelson and his partner, a stranger with cold eyes, ran basic tests. Walk a line, follow a pen. Routine, she thought. But Mr. Nelson's faint smile unsettled her like he was savoring a secret. Then he spoke, his voice low, deliberate. "Ladies, we have two options." He glanced at his partner, their smirks mirroring each other, a shared hunger. "We can take you home, tell your parents everything, or you can do something for us." A chill ran through her, sharp as a blade. "What kind of thing?" a friend asked, her voice trembling. Mr. Nelson's smile widened, not cruel but smug, like a man holding all the cards. "A strip search," he said, the words landing like a blow. This can't be real. The world tilted, the cornfields blurring, the night's heat now suffocating. Miss Kelvin's blood ran cold, her mind screaming denial. Mr. Nelson? The man from church? His partner chuckled, a low, filthy sound, and she saw it. The hunger in their eyes, the betrayal of everything she'd trusted. "Come on," Mr. Nelson pressed, his voice softer, coaxing. "Show us some skin and this goes away." Say no. She wanted to scream, to run, but his tone darkened, a growl creeping in. "I don't think you understand. Be nice, or else." What will they do? The threat hung heavy, her friends' faces pale, one sobbing silently. Miss Kelvin's heart pounded, her defiance crumbling under his stare. "We have no choice." They obeyed, their clothes falling to the dirt, the cop's laughter, a knife in her chest. This isn't happening. She shut her eyes, the memory too raw to share fully even years later. Nested story flickered in her mind. A girl from school rumored to have vanished after a night like this, her name whispered in fear. Is this our fate? Leaning against the car, humiliated, Miss Kelvin caught her friend's eye. "We can't stay." They whispered, barely audible, planning their escape. On three, they bolted, sprinting into the cornfield, stalks slashing their skin. "Run, don't stop." Mr. Nelson lunged, his hand grazing a friend, but they were too fast. The cops didn't follow, their cruiser's engine roaring as they fled. The girls hid, trembling for 10 minutes, the corn their only shield. Are they gone? They crept back, dressed and drove home, the night a wound that wouldn't close. Days later, Mr. Nelson said nothing, his silence a power play. No one would believe us. He was a pillar of the town, untouchable in the 80s, where girls' words meant little. Reporting him would have ruined them, not him. Stay quiet. At church, his smirk returned, a wink that pierced her soul, an anchor for her fear. He knows he won. The memory haunted her, a shadow she carried, a lesson that trust is a lie, and monsters wear badges. Headlights flared behind us, too close, too fast, on a road that should have been empty. 2 summers ago, my son's 16th birthday took us to a water park, a day of laughter and splashes. But by dusk, we were lost in a small Midwest town. Google Maps failing us. We found a diner, ate, and spotted a county fair across the street. The fair's lights flickered, promising one last adventure. It was closing, but a tractor pull was starting, a first for us. We climbed the bleachers, my son grinning, my friend, a burly guy, keeping watch. Families cheered, drunks swayed, the air thick with exhaust and excitement. I felt safe, but the night was already watching. We stayed briefly, leaving early to avoid the rowdy crowd. The town felt wrong, its streets too quiet, its shadows too deep. The restaurant was shuttered now, our car alone in the lot. We piled in, my son in the back, ready for home. I followed the map's route, a back road I knew, but as we pulled out, that car appeared, its presence a warning I couldn't ignore. The fair's glow faded behind us and the darkness took over. Hungry for what came next, the back road twisted through hills, woods pressing in on both sides. That car stayed with us, a white shadow in my mirror. It was the only other vehicle, its insistence unnatural in this deserted town. I told myself they were tourists, following the same route, but my gut churned, my son's birthday joy fading in the back seat. The darkness felt alive, stalking us. I drove cautiously, wary of deer, but the car behind matched my pace, inches from my bumper. I slowed, hoping they'd pass, but they clung closer, a predator toying with prey. I sped up, heart racing, the road's curves blurring. They followed, relentless, their tinted windows hiding their intent. My friend gripped the armrest, his anger rising. This wasn't a prank, it was a hunt. I aimed for the interstate, its promise of safety taunting me. My son's voice trembled, asking why they wouldn't stop. I had no answer, only fear, sharp and cold. The hills loomed, the woods whispered, and the white car pressed on, its headlights a curse we couldn't shake. Every turn felt like a trap, every mile a step deeper into their game. The interstate opened before us, a lifeline of asphalt. But the white car followed, its headlights a relentless stare. I slowed, praying they'd pass, but they stayed glued to my bumper. I sped up, weaving through the quiet highway, my son's fear mirroring mine. They matched every move, a shadow we couldn't lose. My friend's fists clenched, ready for a fight I refused to risk. The road was empty, no help in sight. My tires humming a desperate song. This wasn't a game anymore, it was survival. Panic surged and I pressed the horn, its blare slicing the night. The white car swerved, pulling to the shoulder, its lights fading. Relief flooded me, but doubt lingered. Why did they turn off their lights? We raced on, my son's breathing heavy, my friend's anger cooling. The highway stretched, promising safety, but the darkness held its breath. I pushed the gas home so close, yet the night wasn't done with us. Those headlights were gone, but their absence felt like a lie. A predator waiting to strike again. 15 minutes of calm lulled us, the terror fading. We laughed, almost free, until headlights exploded beside us. The white car was back, its lights off all along, stalking us in the dark. My heart sank, anger replacing fear. They'd hunted us for an hour, a relentless shadow. My son gripped the seat, his birthday ruined by this nightmare. I pushed the pedal, spotting a semi's taillights ahead. The white car paced us, its driver, leaning forward, intent on us. Then they swerved, aiming for my rear, trying to spin us off the road. I jerked forward, their bumper grazing mine, inches from disaster. I hugged the semi, its bulk my shield. The white car weaved, desperate to cut me off. My friend shouted, but I focused, refusing to yield. The semi-driver saw it all, his rig a fortress. The highway roared, the white car's lights a venomous glare, but I held tight, knowing we were running out of time. The semi-driver acted, swerving into the fast lane, cutting off the white car. Its brakes screeched, giving me my chance. I floored. It hitting 90, veering onto a back street. The town's lights glowed ahead, a beacon of safety. I pulled into a bustling gas station, a cop car gleaming under the lights. My friend leapt out, spilling our story to the officer, who called for backup. The white car was gone, lost in the night. We hid my car in a lot, a friend trailing us to shield our home. I watched for that white car, its model burned into my mind. The town's secret chilled me. It housed a massive mental health asylum, a shadow over our escape. Was he an escapee? A ghost of that place? I checked the news, dreading his return. That night haunts us, a birthday scarred by a chase we'll never forget. The road taught me fear, and I'll never drive those hills again. The highway stretched into oblivion, a ribbon of black slicing through the desert's heart, whispering promises of freedom and peril. In 2009, at 22, I left California behind, chasing a new life as a corrections officer in the East. It was 3 a.m. on a Sunday, and I was alone on what they called the loneliest highway, a desolate stretch where no soul stirred for miles. My car's headlights carved fleeting paths through the dark, the hum of the engine my only companion. Keep driving, stay awake, I told myself, fighting the weight of exhaustion, unaware that the night had already marked me as prey. Half an hour had passed since I'd seen another car, the world beyond my windshield a void of sand and shadow. My eyelids drooped, the road blurring when a shape emerged, jagged against the horizon. A car broken down, its hood raised like a wounded beast, parked on the shoulder. Beside it stood a woman, small, fragile, her figure caught in my headlights. Glare. She needs help, my instincts urged, but something deeper, a primal chill, warned me to keep going. I slowed, rolling down my window just a crack, the cold desert air sharp against my face. "You okay?" I called, my voice swallowed by the night. "Need me to call a tow truck?" Her eyes met mine, wide, desperate, but something was off, too intense, too hollow. "No tow," she said, her voice sharp, unsteady. "Just let me in." "Don't do it," my gut screamed, but her small frame, barely 90 pounds, seemed harmless. Against my 6-foot bulk, I hesitated, the silence between us heavy, charged. "I'll wait for the tow truck," I offered, but her face twisted, rage flashing like a storm. "You're cruel," she spat, stepping closer, her hands clutching a bulky purse. "What's in there?" My heart thudded, doubt creeping in, but guilt won. I unlocked the door, the click loud in the quiet, a decision I'd soon regret. She slid in, the scent of stale cigarettes and something sour clinging to her. "Who can I call?" I asked, my BlackBerry's dim light casting shadows across her face. She ignored me, eyes darting to her purse, fingers fumbling inside. "Just drive," she snapped, her voice low, urgent. "Next town." Something's wrong. Her refusal to look at me, the way her hands moved, too quick, too secretive, set my nerves on edge. I gripped the wheel, my mind racing. What's she hiding? The road stretched endless, the desert a silent witness, and then I saw it. A flicker in my side mirror, a man moving fast, emerging from the broken-down car, sprinting toward my door. My blood froze. He was waiting. I slammed the car into drive, tires spinning, the engine roaring as I peeled away. A sharp ping rang out, my side mirror exploding, in a shower of glass. He's shooting. The woman lunged, her nails raking my arm, her voice a feral scream. "Stop the car!" I swerved, adrenaline surging, pushing 90 mph, the desert blurring past. Her purse spilled, lipsticks and needles scattering across the seat. her hands clawing for something, maybe a weapon. "Get her out." I yanked the passenger door open, shoving her with all my strength. She tumbled out, clutching her purse. Her curses fading as I sped away, the door flapping wildly until I slammed it shut. The road swallowed me, my hands shaking, my breath ragged. What just happened? I drove until dawn, pulling into a Denny's parking lot, the neon sign a frail sanctuary. In the light I saw the mess she'd left, smeared napkins, a cracked tube of lipstick, a syringe glinting under the seat. A phone, locked but functional, lay among the debris. This isn't her car. The realization hit like a punch. The vehicle I'd fled in, the one they'd used, was stolen. Its contents a grim echo of another victim's fate. They'd done this before. I called 911 from the phone, my voice trembling as I recounted the night. But fear stopped me from keeping the evidence. I tossed it all in a trash bag, dumping it at a gas station, my dreams of becoming a cop outweighing the truth. The officer I spoke to scolded me for stopping, for letting her in, but promised to investigate. I doubted he did. My car, its mirror, shattered, became a reminder I couldn't shake. I sold it soon after, but the memory of that night, her eyes, his shadow, the bullet's ping, clings to me. What if I hadn't seen him? The question is a ghost, haunting every empty road I drive. A warning that kindness can be a trap and the loneliest highway never forgets. As a teenager, I thought babysitting was easy money, until one rainy night turned Alice's house into a cage, and a stranger's voice became my nightmare. The memory still claws at me, a shadow that never fades. I was 16, babysitting, for my neighbor Alice nearly every weekend, our routine as familiar as the hum of her house. That night, Alice had a friend over, Jennifer, a shy girl nervous for her first sleepover. I kept them giggling, easing Jennifer's fears while rain lashed the windows, the storm outside a restless beast. But the real danger wasn't the thunder. It was the voice waiting to strike. By 6:30 p.m., Alice's parents, Jason and Janelle, had left, setting the alarm as they vanished into the downpour. I bathed the girls, their laughter echoing, and tucked them into bed with Nickelodeon flickering on the TV. All's well, I thought, heading to the kitchen for snacks. The breakfast nook's glass doors reflected the storm, rain streaking like tears. As I sliced apples, the phone rang, shrill against the thunder. Probably Jason checking in. I answered, my voice light. "Hello?" A man's voice, low and smooth, replied, "How are you?" I hesitated. "I'm good. Is this for Jason? He's not here." A pause, then, "Maybe I'm calling for you." My stomach twisted, but I brushed it off. A bored relative, maybe. Keep it short. "The girls need me," I said, hanging up, the line's silence lingering like a bad dream. I brought the snacks to Alice and Jennifer, their eyes glued to the screen, but the phone rang again before I could sit. Not again. I hurried back, the kitchen dark, the storm's roar muffling my steps. "It's rude to hang up," the man said, his tone calm but edged, like a blade hidden in silk. "He's annoyed." Thunder rolled, the girls calling for me, their voices small. "I'm sorry, I need to go," I said, cutting him off. "Stay with the girls." Back in their room, I tried to focus, but the phone rang once more, then again, relentless. "Ignore it." Alice clung to me, scared of the storm, so I stayed. The unanswered calls a weight on my chest. 10 minutes passed, the ringing stopped, but then it started again. Insistent. What if it's Janelle? I pried myself away, the girl's eyes wide. In the kitchen, I grabbed the phone. "Don't hang up, you little..." The man snarled, his voice venomous. "He's watching." My blood ran cold. "Leave me alone or I'll..." "Call the cops," I shouted, slamming the receiver down. Alice and Jennifer stood behind me, pale, their fear mirroring mine. Keep them calm. Ice cream? I offered, my voice shaking. As I opened the freezer, the phone rang again. No. Alice answered before I could stop her, her face draining of color, her eyes locked on me. I snatched the phone. "Nice pink shirt you're wearing," he said, his voice a knife. "He's here." My heart stopped. I was wearing pink, and during his second call I'd heard thunder on the line, matching the storm outside. He's inside. A nested story flashed. A neighbor's tale of a prowler who called his victims, watching from the shadows. "Move now." I flicked off the kitchen lights, plunging us into darkness, and grabbed Alice and Jennifer, their hands trembling in mine. Alex, their dog, followed, his ears flat. "Hide." I shoved us into the pantry, the door swinging inward, and dragged a sack of rice against it. My back pressed to the shelves, feet bracing the sack. "Stay quiet." The girls huddled against me, my hands over their mouths. Alex pinned between my legs, his warmth a frail anchor. The alarm blared, the phone rang, the storm raged. A trance loop of chaos, my pulse a drum in my ears. Minutes stretched. My arms aching, the darkness suffocating. Is he out there? Muddy footprints from my memory haunted me, a sign I'd missed. Then a voice, female, calm, called out. "Police! It's safe!" "Don't trust it." A badge slid under the door, glinting in the light seeping through. "Officer Wesley." I eased out, shielding the girls, my legs weak. Wesley's face was steady, but her words chilled me. "You should have answered the alarm company." "We didn't set it off," I stammered, tears burning. She pointed to the floor, muddy footprints trailing from the glass door to the pantry, circling as if he'd paced. Then out the front door, still ajar. The police found the glass door pried open, rain washing away the trail outside. Jason and Janelle returned, their faces pale but oddly detached. Why aren't they terrified? They thanked me, took Alice, and left me with the cops, who walked me home. My parents were furious, but I was numb, the man's voice echoing. He knew my shirt. I never babysat for Alice again, the house now a tomb of fear. Years later I learned Jason hadn't gone to prison for tax evasion, but drug running, a kingpin caught in a chase. That night was no accident. The caller was likely a rival targeting Jason's family. Their calm was guilt. The truth haunts me, a lesson in human darkness etched in a voice I'll never forget. The backyard was my kingdom. A sprawl of grass and dreams fenced in by weathered wood, but even kings can't see the shadows creeping closer. I was 8, living in a crumbling house we called the shack, a fragile shelter my mother carved out after her divorce. With my sister, 12 and sharp-eyed, we shared a tiny bedroom, our bunk beds a fortress against the world. The house was small, its walls thin, but the backyard was vast. A sunlit expanse with an above-ground pool and a deck where summer days melted into laughter. A tall privacy fence guarded our world, and through its slats, I found my first taste of danger. I was a nosy kid, always climbing the fence's wooden planks to spy on the neighbors. 2 boys, my schoolmates, lived kitty corner, their yard a mirror of ours. Their uncle Randy was often there, a lanky man in his 20s or 30s, his hands busy with chores, his smile easy. My sister and I would hang on the fence, trading stories with him, his voice warm, his laugh a bridge between our worlds. He's nice, I thought, my child's heart blind to the edges in his gaze. One day a basketball sailed over the fence, and before we could fetch it, Randy vaulted over, with a grace that startled me. So easy, I marveled, not seeing the test in his leap, the way he scanned our yard, our house, our lives. It was my sister who let it slip, a careless word during one of our chats. Our mother worked nights. leaving us alone in the shack. Randy's smile didn't change, but something shifted. A flicker in his eyes I was too young to name. That night, the world turned. I woke to my sister's sobs, her silhouette pressed against the bedroom wall, phone clutched to her ear. "What's wrong?" I whispered, but she shushed me, her voice trembling as she urged me back to sleep. I obeyed. The bunk beds creak my lullaby, unaware of the terror unfolding. Later she told me, Randy had come, his fists pounding our window, his voice low, demanding to be let in. She'd refused, but he circled the house, testing every door, every pane of glass, until her 911 call sent him fleeing over the fence. The police came, but found nothing, just a shadow gone, a threat unproven. We stopped sleeping at home, staying with our father's family at night, our mother's schedule unyielding. Years passed, the memory of Randy fading like a bad dream. I was 10 when it happened again. My sister, now bolder, hosted a sleepover. Her friends sprawled across the living room, board games scattered. The sliding glass door to the backyard stood exposed, its vertical blinds broken, a gap revealing the night beyond. Laughter filled the air, but the night was watching. One of her friends froze, her face pale. "There's a man at the door," she whispered. We turned, and there he was. Randy, his face pressed to the glass, eyes glinting through the gap, staring, unblinking, a predator caught in the act. Chaos erupted, screams piercing the air as we scrambled, my sister dialing 911. Randy vanished, his shadow swallowed by the fence he scaled with ease. The police arrived, their flashlights sweeping the yard, but he was gone. His clothes matching our description, yet proving nothing. He's out there, still watching. My mother moved us soon after. The shack abandoned, a restraining order secured, against Randy's name. He didn't show in court, the order granted without contest, but freedom felt hollow. I never saw him again, but his shadow lingered, a stain on my childhood. Years later, I learned Randy was in prison, his crimes a litany of theft and worse, a life unraveled by his own darkness. What did he want that night? The question haunted me, a puzzle with jagged edges. To scare us, to take us, to break us. My sister's voice, trembling on the phone, echoed in my dreams, a reminder of how close we'd come to something unspeakable. The fence, once a boundary, was nothing to him, and the shack, our fragile castle, had been no match for his hunger. Trust is a child's mistake, I learned, and the man beyond the fence taught me to fear the smiles that hide the night. The alarm shrieked, a piercing wail that tore through the night, freezing my blood. I was 16, sprawled in Lisa's mansion, a palace of wealth tucked in a forest beside our high school. Lisa, Zoe, and I were inseparable, and that night, we planned a sleepover with Anna, Lisa's little sister. The house was a dream. Marble floors, towering windows, a maze of rooms, but its isolation chilled me. We didn't know then that the forest was watching, waiting to claim us. Lisa's mom was gone, leaving us to our mischief. We slipped into pajamas, giggling, and sank into the living room couch, horror movies lighting up the screen. Anna, too, young for the scares, went to bed early, her footsteps fading upstairs. The forest loomed outside, its darkness pressing against the glass. We laughed, lost in the films, the house's grandeur a shield against the world. But the night had its own story, and it was about to begin. Zoe cranked the volume, shadows dancing on the walls. I felt safe, surrounded by friends, but the forest's silence was a warning I ignored. The clock ticked past midnight, and the house settled into a quiet that felt too heavy, too alive. The movie screams faded as the alarm blared again, a jarring pulse that shook the house. Lisa shrugged it off, saying it happened sometimes, and darted to silence it. We laughed, nerves tingling, but the quiet that followed felt wrong. 10 minutes later, it screamed again, louder, insistent. This wasn't normal. The system was set for humans, not animals, in this forest fortress. Fear crept in, cold and sharp. We raced upstairs, flinging open windows to scan the garden below. Nothing moved, just trees swaying in the moonlight. Zoe suggested the balcony, and we stepped out, the night air biting. Still nothing, but the darkness seemed to breathe. I lingered alone, heart pounding, when the alarm wailed, and the pool lights flared below. Something was there, right beneath me. I dropped to my knees, trembling, hiding in the shadows. Lisa killed the alarm. The lights died, and I bolted inside. The house was no longer safe. The forest had sent its spies. We whispered, nerves frayed, knowing someone was out there, watching our every move. Panic took over, and we killed the lights, plunging the house into darkness. All four of us, me, Zoe, Lisa, and Anna, fled to the kitchen, a fortress of shadows. We forgot our phones, a mistake that haunts me still. The house's windows gaped, exposing us to the forest's eyes. We crouched, hearts racing, waiting for the unknown. The alarm shrieked again, and Anna's cry cut through. Lisa pulled her upstairs to stop it, leaving Zoe and me alone. We clung to each other, eyes darting to the glass door, its blinds half open. The forest was silent, but it lied. Then footsteps, fast, deliberate, raced along the garden wall. My breath stopped. They weren't fleeing, they knew where they were. A figure passed the door, a silhouette caught in a faint light. Another followed, their movements synchronized, predatory. There were two, circling us like wolves. We froze, the kitchen a trap, the glass our only barrier. They were out there, hunting, and we were their prey. The footsteps faded, but the fear didn't, a weight that crushed our courage. Lisa and Anna stayed upstairs, or so they said, but the house felt empty, betrayed by its own walls. Then, voices, low, urgent, hummed outside, too close. My heart stopped as a light blazed through the blinds, pinning Zoe and me in its glare. We couldn't move, couldn't scream, paralyzed by fear. They saw us, savored our terror, and stayed, watching. A heavy thud shook the front door, someone testing its strength. I snapped awake, crawling to the back door, yanking the blinds shut. My hands gripped the handle, frail against the glass. The figure outside slammed against it, the door rattling under their force. Zoe stayed frozen, Lisa and Anna silent upstairs. The front door shuddered again, then stopped. Seconds later, the back door's assault ceased, the light darting away. The figures vanished, their footsteps swallowed by the night. They were gone, but the house felt violated. Its safety a lie. The alarm was useless, a broken guardian in a forest that hid our hunters. Morning came, gray and heavy, as Lisa's mom returned. We spilled our terror, expecting comfort, but she scolded us for not calling the police. I bristled then, but now I see her fear. She summoned officers, who found footprints circling the house, mud smeared on the front door. They called it reconnaissance, thieves scouting wealth common in this enclave of mansions. But their aggression haunted me. Why turn violent when they saw us? The police offered no answers, their shrugs a cold dismissal. I never slept there. Again the forest's gaze too vivid. Lisa was upset, claiming she saw nothing, safe upstairs with Anna. Her blindness to my fear broke something in me. I still see those silhouettes, their lights searing my mind. Was it theft or something darker? The forest keeps their secret, and I dread the day they return. That night stole my courage, and I'll never trust the dark again. My night shift at the data center was supposed to be dull, a quiet vigil over blinking screens, until a shadow moved in the dark, and I realized I wasn't alone. The warehouse loomed at the end of a deserted road, its concrete bulk backed by dense woods, a place where silence reigned and time crawled. I worked the graveyard shift, my eyes glued to monitors, ensuring the system stayed alive. It was simple. Check the screens, restart a server if it crashed, and kill time however I could. But the isolation gnawed at me, the empty building a cavern of shadows, its hum a deceptive lullaby. That night something else was watching, waiting to step into the light. I arrived at 10 p.m., the parking lot a void under the sodium glow of a single streetlight, my car the only one in sight. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth from the woods beyond, their branches clawing at the sky. Another long night. I climbed the stairs to the control room, the building's low hum greeting me, a familiar drone that never quite filled the quiet. I settled in, my chair creaking, and opened my laptop to a Netflix show I'd been binging. Its voices a thin shield against the emptiness. The monitors glowed, their data stream steady. A rare outage, the only break in the monotony, maybe twice a week. All clear, I thought, hitting play, the show's chatter blending with the server's distant whir. 2 episodes in, the clock nearing midnight, a notification flashed on the main screen, stark against the blue. System offline, row 12, section 8. My heart sank, not for the outage, but for the trek to fix it, deep in the building's heart. Get it done. I paused the show, the silence rushing in like a tide, and grabbed my flashlight, its beam cutting through the dim corridors. The data center was a labyrinth, its concrete halls lined with locked doors, their handles cold under my touch. I navigated by memory, my steps echoing, the air growing cooler as I descended to the server room. A vast grid of towering racks, their fans whispering like distant voices, their lights blinking in rhythm. Row 12, section 8, was at the far corner, shadowed and remote, the air thick with the scent of metal and dust. There it is. The main power cable lay on the floor, unplugged, its thick coils like a severed lifeline, glinting faintly in my beam. That's impossible. In years on the job, I'd never seen a heavy-duty cable dislodge itself, its weight designed to stay put. Something's wrong. I knelt, my fingers brushing the cold plug, and reconnected it, the system rebooting with a soft its lights flickering back to life. But my unease lingered, a cold weight in my chest, the cable's displacement a riddle I couldn't solve. Check the rest. I swept my flashlight across the aisles, the racks looming like sentinels, their shadows shifting as I moved, but found nothing amiss. No other cables out, no signs of tampering. Back in the corridor, my steps echoed louder, the building's silence now oppressive, a presence pressing against me. Just a fluke, I told myself, an embedded command to quell the doubt. But my pulse quickened, my flashlight's beam trembling. Then a sound stopped me. A heavy thud like a door closing far off, sharp and deliberate. What was that? I froze, my light sweeping the hall, its concrete walls unyielding, offering no answers. The warehouse was a maze, its layout a mystery, beyond my usual routes. Control room, server room, back again. It's just pipes settling. But this was different. Not the usual groan of metal, but something alive, intentional. Keep moving. I pushed forward, my breath shallow, and reached the control room. The monitors glow a frail comfort. I checked the systems. Everything online. No new alerts. I resumed my show, but the story felt distant. The building's quiet a lie. Its hum now a low growl in my ears. Minutes later, rapid steps fleeting and close just outside the door. My heart leapt, my body tensing, the sound gone as quickly as it came. Someone's here. I stood, my chair scraping, and opened the door. The corridor empty, its fluorescent lights flickering like a dying pulse. Check it out. I walked to the ice far end, my flashlight probing the shadows, each step heavier, my breath loud in the silence. I pushed open the next door, My hand slick with sweat and caught the opposite door easing shut, as if someone had slipped through, its motion slow and deliberate. No way. My heart pounded, a drum against my ribs, the air thick with dread. Stay calm. I crossed the hall, each step a gamble, my flashlight's beam shaking, and opened the door to a row of office rooms, their windows dark, reflecting only my pale face. Anyone there? I called, my voice swallowed by the silence, echoing back unanswered. Nothing. The quiet was suffocating, every shadow a threat, the air heavy with the scent of dust and metal. Don't go further. The command was clear, my instinct screaming, retreat. But I took one step, my flashlight sweeping the doors. Then a door to my left swung open. A figure lunging from the dark, a man, his face obscured, his movement swift, a blur of intent. Run. I bolted, my legs pumping, his steps pounding. Behind me, echoing through the corridors like a predator's chase. I veered into a staircase, my breath ragged, my flashlight bouncing, and slammed through the fire exit. The cold night air hitting me like a shock, sharp and biting. Get to the car. I sprinted across the lot, my shoes slipping on wet asphalt, and fumbled for my phone, dialing 911 as I locked myself in. My hands shaking, my eyes fixed on the building. He's gone. The warehouse stared back, its windows black, no sign of pursuit. Its silence a mocking void. The police arrived within minutes, their flashlights sweeping the warehouse, their radios crackling in the night. They searched for half an hour, their boots echoing where mine had fled, but the man had vanished, likely slipping out another exit into the wood's embrace. They found the unplugged cable, its position in the corner a clue. He'd bumped it while sneaking through, his presence a silent invasion. He was there all along. My company launched an investigation, scouring footage, checking locks, but I learned little, my clearance too low for answers. What did he want? A nested story haunted me, a coworker's tale from years ago. A break-in, tools stolen, the thief a ghost in the night, never caught. Was this worse? The thought anchored my fear. The man's shadow a specter in my mind, his fleeting form a riddle. He didn't want me to see him. His intent, silence me, steal, or something darker, remains a void. A terror I'm grateful I didn't uncover, a shadow that lingers in every empty hall I'll never walk again. My phone buzzed, a new order flashing in the dark, promising $20 for a quick drop-off. 2 years ago, I was grinding 2 jobs, a 9 to 5 draining my days, deliveries stealing my nights, all to chase a condo dream. That night, at 6:30 p.m., I was on fire. Tips stacking high, my car a lifeline in the city's fading glow. After a quick dinner, I hit the road, the streets alive with possibility. Each order was a small triumph, a step closer to my goal, but greed whispered to keep going. By 11 p.m., the city slept. The orders dwindled, their tips barely worth the gas. I hungered for one last score, a payout to crown the night. I cruised, eyes glued to my phone, chasing the next ping. Then it came, a $20 order, just 15 minutes away. I grabbed it, pulse quickening, the cash a siren's call. The address glowed, a promise in the silence. I snatched the food, its warmth seeping through the bag, and sped off. The night was too still, the roads too empty, a quiet that pricked my skin. My headlights carved the dark, pulling me toward a job that felt too perfect. A shadow of doubt flickered, but I pushed it down, blind to the forest's hunger. The city faded, and I drove into a night that was already weaving its trap. The GPS veered me from the city's pulse into a corner of town I didn't recognize. Streets shrank, houses dissolved, swallowed by a wall of trees. I checked the route, twice. my headlights faltering against the encroaching dark. This wasn't a neighborhood, it was a void, a wilderness untouched by streetlights. The final turn led to a gravel road, its smoothness unnerving, snaking deep into the forest. My stomach knotted, the $20 tip a fading justification. A gate loomed, 2 stone pillars with a chain hanging limp, an open invitation to the unknown. I eased through, gravel grinding under my tires, the forest's breath cold on my neck. The road ended at a parking lot barren under the stars, a sign naming it a forest preserve. Doubt surged. Parks close at 8, don't they? No houses, no souls. Just an endless black. I parked, my breath shallow, the food bag heavy in my hands. Its heat mocked the chill seeping through the windows. This was wrong, but I was committed, trapped by my own choice. The forest pressed closer, its silence a living thing, heavy with secrets. I felt watched, a prey in a hunter's game. My phone stayed mute, the customer's words a distant echo, pulling me toward a truth I wasn't ready to face. The night had set its stage, and I was walking into its heart. My phone vibrated, shattering the lot's eerie calm. The customer's name flashed, his voice rasping through, thick and rough, like gravel dragged over stone. He knew I'd parked, asked if I saw him, his tone too intimate. I peered into the dark, seeing only trees, and said no. He laughed, a sound that crawled under my skin, saying his campfire was down a trail. Just a short walk. I questioned the preserve's rules, my voice thin, but he brushed it off, claiming special camping nights. I wasn't a woodsman, so I swallowed. His lie, the $20 tip a leash pulling me forward. I stepped out, food bag in hand, the cold slicing through my jacket. My phone's flashlight carved a frail path, the trail twisting into the forest's heart. No voices, no laughter, just wind whispering through branches, insects humming a warning. I expected a lively group, but the silence screamed deception. My boots sank into the earth, each step heavier, the forest's weight pressing on my chest. Halfway down, an orange flicker appeared, a fire buried deep in the trees. It wasn't on the trail, tucked far off, a beacon in the void. My pulse hammered, doubt clawing at me, but the flame drew me closer. The trees tightened, their shadows dancing like specters, urging me into a place no one should go. I felt the forest's eyes, unseen, unyielding, guiding me to a truth I didn't want. Every rustle was a threat, every gust a voice. I was no longer alone, and the fire was no friend. The night had me, a pawn in its deadly game. The fire's light flickered, casting jagged shadows across the trees. No tents, no chairs, just a solitary flame alive in a void. My breath hitched, dread coiling tight. This wasn't a campsite, it was a deception, a lure crafted for me. A branch broke, sharp, intentional, echoing in the dark. I spun, heart slamming, glimpsing a figure beyond the light, motionless, watching. Terror surged, my voice trembling as I shouted, "I'm the delivery guy leaving your food here." I dropped the bag, its thud swallowed by the forest, and backed away, eyes locked on the shadow. He emerged, tall, bearded, his smile a mask, eyes gleaming with hunger. That rasping voice apologized. Too polished, too false. Every instinct screamed to flee. I bolted, his calls chasing me, syrupy and sinister, pleading for my return. My flashlight danced, the trail a maze of roots and fear. Branches clawed my arms, the forest alive, conspiring against me. I reached the car, keys slipping in my shaking hands, and dove inside. The engine roared, but the gate's chain was locked, a steel snare. Footsteps pounded closer, heavy, relentless. I swerved onto the grass, tires skidding, scraping past the pillars. The ditch yawned, a trap to swallow me, but I cleared it, gravel spraying as I fled. The forest's gaze burned my back, his shadow a wound in my mind. I escaped, but the night's claws lingered, its hunger unsatisfied. I was free but not untouched, the forest's mark a scar I'd carry forever. Shock kept me from calling the police, a regret that stings still. Dawn broke, and I scoured the internet. The preserve shut. At 8 p.m., no camping, no fires allowed. His words were a lie. A hook sunk deep in my trust. What did he plan? Theft? Something darker? The empty fire, the chained gate? They were deliberate, a predator's design. I see his face, that twisted smile, those eyes piercing the dark. I quit deliveries. The forest's shadow too heavy, its pull too strong. The night clings to me, a memory that wakes me sweating, heart racing. I avoid wooded roads, their silence a threat I can't unlearn. The forest taught me fear, a lesson carved in my bones, warning of shadows that wait for a spark to draw them near. The neon sign buzzed like a dying star, casting its sickly glow over the empty parking lot, a beacon for the lost and the reckless. I worked the graveyard shift at a small pizza shop, a 24/7 hole in the wall where the scent of grease clung to. The air and the hum of fluorescent lights was my only company. At 20-something, I'd grown used to the solitude, the way the night stretched endless, broken only by the occasional drunk stumbling in for a slice. This is my world, I thought. Starting my shift at 9 p.m., the Tuesday quiet promising a slow, easy night. But the night had other plans, ones it whispered in shadows I couldn't yet see. The shop was a box of faded tiles and worn counters, its few tables empty, the kitchen a maze of ovens and prep stations. I moved through my routine, restocking. Dough, wiping surfaces, the monotony a comfort. By 11, the phone hadn't rung, no customers had crossed the threshold. I sank into a chair in the back, my phone's glow a portal to another world, scrolling through videos to kill the hours. Just another night, I told myself, the silence wrapping around me like a blanket. But at 1 a.m., a sound shattered the stillness. The front door's bell, sharp, insistent, slicing through the quiet. I froze, pulse quickening, and stood, peering into the main room. Empty. No one at the counter, no one at the tables, just the bell's echo lingering like a ghost. I stepped forward, my sneakers soft on the tiles, scanning the shadows. A trick. Of the mind, I decided the bell's chime too familiar, my brain conjuring it from habit. I checked the door, its glass cool under my palm, the parking lot beyond dark and still. No cars, no people, just the neon signs flicker. I returned to my chair, unease prickling my neck, but dismissed it, sinking back into my phone. 15 minutes later, it happened again. The bell rang, clear, deliberate, pulling me to my feet. I moved faster this time, heart thudding, but the room was empty, the door unmoved. I pushed it open, the night air sharp, and scanned the sidewalk, the lot, the distant street. Nothing. What's happening? My confusion teetered on the edge of fear, the bell's sound a riddle I couldn't solve. I stayed at the counter, refusing to retreat, watching the door like a hawk. 30 minutes passed, the silence heavy, oppressive. It's nothing, I told myself, but my body disagreed, tense, alert. At 2 a.m., the bell rang a third time, its chime a taunt. I didn't move, my eyes locked on the door, waiting for a shadow, a sound, anything. Ignore it, stay calm. But the air felt wrong, thick like it was watching me. I started counting the register, my hands busy, my mind desperate for distraction. A step, heavy, deliberate, sounded behind me. My breath caught, my body rigid. I turned, and he was there. A man 5 feet away, his ragged black clothes hanging like decay. A hoodie shrouding his face, his eyes bloodshot, hollow, burning into mine. Time stopped, the world narrowing to his gaze, his left hand gripping a knife, its blade catching the light, his knuckles white with intent. He's not right, not sane. My heart slammed against my ribs, every instinct screaming to run, but the L-shaped counter trapped me, his body blocking the path to the door. "Take the cash," I said, my voice trembling. "I won't say anything. Please." He didn't move, didn't blink, his stare a void, unpredictable, deadly. What does he want? Seconds stretched, endless, his silence a weapon sharper than the blade. I saw my life in flashes, nights at the shop, laughter with friends, a future I might not see. "Move now." I lunged, diving over the counter, my body crashing to the floor, pain shooting through my knees. He moved, a blur of rage, his knife slashing the air as I scrambled up. "Run, don't stop." I bolted for the door, glass swinging wide, the cold night swallowing me as I sprinted across the lot. His footsteps pounded behind, close, too close, his breath a rasp of fury. I hit the road, legs burning, praying for headlights, for help. But the street was empty, a black void. He's still there. I didn't dare look back, my lungs screaming until the sound faded, his pursuit ending as suddenly as it began. I collapsed against a curb, phone shaking in my hands as I dialed 911, my voice a broken whisper. The police arrived, their lights cutting the dark, but the shop was a ruin. Counters smashed, shelves overturned. My car's side scarred with jagged scratches from his knife. He was watching me, they said, likely from the windows, using the bell to test my reactions, slipping inside to hide for hours. Hours. The thought was a blade twisting deep. What if I'd seen him sooner? The question haunted me, a nightmare of what might have been. His knife, his eyes, his rage turned on me in that silent shop. I quit soon after, the shop's neon sign a memory I couldn't face. He's still out there, a shadow in the night. His motives a mystery that clawed at my sleep. The bells chime, the knife's glint, the emptiness of his gaze. They were anchors, pulling me back to that night. A reminder that safety is a lie the dark can shatter. In my mid-20s, I thought my pizza shop night shift was just a boring grind, until the doorbell rang with no one there, and a knife-wielding shadow turned my world into a nightmare. The shop was a small, greasy hole in the wall, open 24/7, its neon sign flickering on a quiet street, drawing late-night drunks with its promise of cheap slices. I worked alone most nights, slinging mediocre pies, the hum of the oven my only company, the glow of the open sign casting long shadows. I liked the solitude, the freedom to scroll my phone when orders slowed, the world outside fading away. But that Tuesday night, as I clocked in at 9 p.m., the air felt heavy, the shop's warmth a fragile shield against the dark. Something was waiting, hidden just out of sight. I relieved the day manager, the shop empty save for the lingering smell of burnt cheese and cleaning fluid, the counter sticky under my hands. Slow night ahead, I thought, prepping the back counter, my sneakers squeaking on the tiled floor, the hum of the fridge a steady drone. A few customers trickled in before 11, their orders quick, 2 slices, a soda, their tips stingy, their voices slurred. Then nothing. No calls, no walk-ins, just silence. The street outside deserted, the parking lot a void. I sank into a chair in the kitchen, the back door's faint draft chilling my neck, a reminder of the world beyond. Just past the time. Opened my phone, the screen's glow a lifeline, its videos a distraction from the shop's oppressive quiet, the oven's heat a false comfort. Around 1 a.m., A sharp sound pierced the stillness. The doorbell. Its chime triggered by the front entrance, bright and insistent. Customer. I stood, brushing flour from my hands, and walked to the counter, my eyes scanning the main room. It was empty, the tables bare, the door still, its glass reflecting the neon sign's red glow. What the hell? My pulse ticked up, a faint unease creeping in. I stepped closer, checking corners, even peering under tables. The silence heavier now, the shop's warmth fading. Nothing. A faint smile crossed my lips. My mind's playing tricks. The bell's chime was so familiar, a constant in my nights, that maybe I'd imagined it, the quiet playing games. Shake it off. I returned to the kitchen, the chair's creak welcoming me, and resumed scrolling, the incident fading like a half-remembered dream, the shop's hum swallowing my doubts. 15. Minutes later, the bell rang again, clear and sharp, cutting through the silence with no video to blame. That was real. I rose, my steps slower, my heart quickening, and entered the main room. Empty again, the air colder, the neon signs buzz louder, a low growl in my ears. Check outside. I opened the front door, the night air sharp against my skin, and scanned. The sidewalk, the parking lot, a void under the streetlights. Not a soul in sight. No one. I tested the bell, pushing the door gently, then harder. But it stayed silent unless fully opened, its mechanism stubborn. Weird. Confusion edged into unease. A prickle on my skin. The shop's quiet, now a weight, pressing against me. Something's off. I lingered up front, leaning on the counter, my eyes fixed on the door, daring it to ring again, my fingers tapping nervously. Come on. I stood there for half an hour, the clock ticking past 2 a.m., but the bell stayed silent. The shop's stillness mocking me, just a glitch. I retreated to the kitchen, the darkness of the back room swallowing me. The oven's hum now oppressive, a low pulse that set my nerves on edge. Between 2 and 3 a.m., the deadest hour, the bell rang once more, its chime a blade slicing through the quiet. Not again. I stayed seated, my heart racing, and called out, "Anyone there?" Listen carefully. Silence answered, thick and heavy, the shop's shadows shifting in the corner of my eye. Ignore it. I gripped my phone, the screen blurring, my mind wrestling with the bell's mystery, convincing myself it was faulty. But the shop felt alive, its walls watching, waiting. An hour passed, the night dragging, no customers to break the spell. At 4 a.m., I moved to the front to prep for the next shift, counting the register's meager cash, the coins clinking softly. Almost done. But a chill settled over me. The room too still, the air too heavy, a sensation crawling up my spine. Someone's watching. I glanced at the empty tables, the kitchen's dark mouth, my nerves fraying, the bell's echoes lingering. In my mind, it's just the night. Then a sound, a heavy step right behind me like a boot on tile, deliberate and close. My breath caught, my body spinning, my heart hammering. He was there. A man, 5 feet away, clad in tattered black, a hoodie shrouding his face, his bloodshot eyes hollow, unhuman, staring through me. His left hand gripped a knife, its blade glinting under the fluorescent light. His knuckles white with intent, his presence a violation of the shop's fragile safety. He's not right, stay still. I froze, my heart a drum, his stare a void, unpredictable. His silence a threat deeper than words. Talk to him. Take the cash, I said, my voice trembling, barely audible. I won't tell. Just let me go. Please. He didn't move, his silence worse than a scream. His eyes burning with something beyond reason, something feral. The L-shaped counter trapped me. To run, I'd have to pass him, his knife too close. Its edge a promise of violence. Do something. In a surge of panic, I lunged, diving over the counter, my body crashing to the floor, pain shooting through my knees, the impact jarring. Move now, he charged, his face twisting with rage, a snarl of bloodlust, the knife slashing the air inches from me. I scrambled up, my hands slipping, and sprinted for the door, fumbling with the handle, my breath ragged. Get out! I burst outside, the cold air biting, my feet pounding the pavement. His steps close behind, a predator's pursuit echoing in the empty street. Keep going. I ran, the road stretching dark and deserted, my car too far behind the shop, unreachable. Find help. My lungs burned, my legs heavy, but his steps faded. He'd stopped, though I didn't dare look back, my body driven by raw fear. Call for help. I dialed 911 from the road, my voice shaking, my hands trembling as I crouched by the curb, waiting for the sirens, the shop's neon sign a distant glow. The police arrived in minutes, their flashlights sweeping the wreckage, tables overturned, the register smashed, the shop a ruin. He was here. My car, parked out back, bore his mark, deep scratches from his knife, jagged scars across its side. He wanted me to know. The police searched but found no trace, the back door ajar, his escape a ghost's vanish into the night. He watched me. They confirmed he'd used the bell as a trick, ringing it to lure me up front, slipping inside during my checks. His presence a silent invasion. He was there the whole time. The hour between the last chime and his attack meant he'd hidden, watching from the shadows, waiting for his moment. Why me? A nested story surfaced, a co-worker's warning about a vagrant seen nearby. His eyes wild, never caught, his shadow a rumor in the night. Was it him? The man's rage felt personal, not random, a puzzle with no answer. He's still out there. The fear drove me to quit, the shop a prison I couldn't face, its bell a trigger I couldn't unhear. What did he want? The question anchors my dread, a shadow that lingers, a chime that still rings in my nightmares, a reminder that danger can hide in the quietest nights.